What is up, restaurant owners? If you're tired of trying to figure out your numbers, you're wondering where the money's going, you're just feeling stressed about, your finances, you're in the right place today. I am here with the guru, Tim Sernett from Financial Optics. He is going to break down exactly what you need to do to get your finances in order. Tim, thanks for being here. Let's get right to it. I mean, what are the biggest mistakes you see with the restaurants you're working with when it comes to their finances?
That's a loaded question, Court. But the biggest mistakes, I think, are just a mindset. In that they open a restaurant because they're really good at managing a restaurant. They're really good at creating a great customer experience, or they're an awesome chef and they know how to cook fantastic dishes. And they have that skill set and they understand how to operate the restaurant. They don't have that financial savvy in looking at the numbers and making sure that what they're doing in their restaurant is providing enough cash flow and enough profit to the bottom line so that they can survive and continue to do what they love to do. So it's just taking on that mindset of, I really need to be the financial expert about my own business. I don't need to be a financial expert about business in total, and I don't need to be an accounting geek, but I do need to be a financial expert about my business and understand how the money and the numbers are moving through my business. I hope that makes sense, but it's a mindset that, I'm really good at what I do. There's something I don't know. I need to know what I don't know and find some help to understand that.
Yeah, I love that mindset shift. I guess that's where you come in, right? I mean, tell us about you and how, your journey, how you got here and what you do to help restaurants.
Wow. So I'm a CPA and I've had my CPA practice for over 30 years. Let's go back even before that. I was born and raised by an entrepreneur. So whenever I decided that accounting and CPA was a good fit for me, it was kind of, it was a natural for me. I never lost that passion for what entrepreneurs do. And my whole career, all I've ever wanted to do is support the hardworking entrepreneurs in the world. Because I saw what my dad went through, the blood, sweat, and tears that he went through to grow a business, grow a pretty substantial business. And I saw how entrepreneurs are the leaders in our communities. And if you really think about it, and you look around at charitable organizations or what have you, boards, they're always entrepreneurs that are involved in leading the community and they care about the community. So that's who I wanted to care about and work with. So when I started my own CPA practice, it was always focused on small business. Over the years, we grew that. I had a tax practice as well. A few years ago, I sold my tax practice and realized I need to pick a niche to focus on to grow my business because we were kind of a general practitioner. At the time, excuse me, just talking to my team and looking at our customer base and looking at who we liked working with and who kind of fit that value proposition of supporting hardworking entrepreneurs. Starting to work with restaurant owners was a natural. We've been working with several for many years, and that's who we really wanted to support and help because they're really some of the hardest working people out there, restaurant owners. It's a hard business to own and operate. So that's the passion we bring to it.
Love it. Love it. So I'm guessing when you start working with a restaurant and maybe before and you start talking to them, there's some red flags that pop up and you're like, so what are some red flags maybe a restaurant owner should be aware of that would maybe make them want to reach out to you?
Yeah. So when we go through the onboarding process with prospects, or even just the whole sales and marketing process with prospects, some of the red flags are the books aren't kept up to date. The accounting records aren't up to date. So they don't really know where they stand except for looking at how much cash is in the bank account, which is not a good way to manage your business from a financial aspect. Or the accounting isn't set up for the restaurant industry in particular so that they're tracking the right key metrics. They're tracking their breaking down their costs by food, beer, wine, liquor, non-alcoholic bev, retail products, if they actually sell retail products, breaking down those costs within those particular categories, and tracking their labor so that they're looking at their labor in terms of front of house, back of house, what is that as a percentage to total income, and making sure they understand what those ratios are, looking at what kind of restaurant they are and where those numbers should be, and tracking them in detail and really understanding that. Another thing that we see is they're managing cash flow by looking at what's in the bank account and not really understanding cash flow and all the things that impact cash flow, from your bottom line net profit to what actually is deposited in the bank account and maintained in the bank account. So it's understanding cash flow, understanding the key metrics in their restaurant, and having all their systems tied together. So there's a lot of moving parts in a restaurant. There's a point of sale system. They might have a payroll system. They have an accounting system. They've got a merchant system, a merchant card acceptance system. All those things need to be tied together. And in today's world, they can be, so that they're all working together and they're seeing all the moving parts all in one place.
Yeah. And I'm guessing menu is a big one, right? I mean, is that something you come in and help people look at their menu? Like, are you profitable? Do you have too many things on your menu? What do you do
Right.
to help people there?
Right. Are they even tracking their menu profitability
Yeah.
by menu item? And that's a big one. So we've got a 9-step process we go through when we onboard somebody and get them to the point where they're actually kind of at that savvy professional level of managing their restaurant from the financial side of things. Detailed menu item costing and detailed menu item costing tracker, which is a spreadsheet we help them set up. That's about step 4 or 5 down the road, but that's a key. You're right. Making sure they understand the profitability of every item on the menu and what the contribution margin is for that item. So especially their top sellers, those are the ones that are moving the needle the most, and they have to make sure that those are getting the profit margins that they need to survive and that they need to continue to contribute cash flow to the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and I said a spreadsheet. In today's world, if they're using the right apps, we've got a bill pay app that pulls detail items out of their suppliers and tracks the cost of each of those items that go into the ingredients for their menu items. Mm-hmm. So they can track and see this menu item was driving a 28% profit or a 72% profit margin last week. The price of avocados just went up, skyrocketed. It's only driving a 60% profit margin this week. It's getting that competitive, and with the way prices are fluctuating so much these days, you've got to stay on top of it. That's kind of a higher level thing that it takes a while. You got to have some other things in place before you can get to that point.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned volatile prices right now, the cost of labor, what are you telling restaurants? I mean, I bet there's some hard conversations of raising their prices. Does that upset their customer base? What are those conversations you're having right now?
Yeah, it's the hesitation of any small business owner, and it's not just restaurant owners. Well, if I raise my price, people are going to be mad at me and they're going to go away. You got to get over that. And I'll drive this point home by saying that the independent restaurant owners, the kind of national average bottom line net profit is somewhere between 3 or 4% and 6%. So very small bottom line margin. Mm-hmm. The big guys, the chains, are the huge restaurant groups, the national chains, they're shooting for 15 to 20%. And a big reason for that disparity is, well, there's a lot of reasons for that, and a lot of it has to do with managing your finances correctly. But one is that independent restaurant owners hesitate too much to increase their prices, especially over the last 4 years since the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be looking at their detailed menu item costing on a monthly minimum basis, if not weekly. And don't be afraid to move prices around a little bit on a monthly basis. And that way, if you're not, if you do it once a year or every 6 months, you've got to move it so much that, yeah, your customers might notice that.
Mm.
If you're moving it around every month and tracking the contribution margin, the overall contribution margin and profitability of your menu, and you're moving it around a little bit every month, your customers aren't going to notice that much.
Interesting. So you think
And
monthly, like reprice their menus, print new menus and everything every month?
yeah, they need to have a system to have their menus be fluid.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe that's digital. Is that what, like, where like a scan a QR code instead of a physical? Like, how are you helping folks with that?
Well, we don't get in too involved in how they manage their menus.
Yeah.
But most of them have access to reprinting menus,
Okay.
either in-house or with the printer down the street. Yeah, it's not, you don't need to have, even if you go into a fine dining restaurant, they've got the fancy menu, but it's paper inserts.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have a laminated glossy menu that's permanent. So,
Yep.
I hope that answers that question.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm just curious about that. So are there unique things you're seeing restaurants doing to drive revenue? That's not just food. For example, I'm thinking merch. Like that's become such a big thing. I go places where they have, really, unique merch things for sale, shirts or things like that. Are there anything kind of outside the box things you're seeing?
Yeah, some of them do the merch. And I'll be honest with my customer base, I don't see that merch driving a lot of revenue.
Interesting. Okay.
It can, but I've never seen it drive more than 5% of the total revenue.
Okay.
As a percentage of total sales.
Yeah.
One of the unique things that some of our more upscale restaurants are doing are, like if they have a bigger room to seat more people, a wine tasting dinner.
Ooh.
Or a special event on the chef's creation, special meal once a month. Or they bring in a local distillery and they do a tasting with that distillery mixed with their menu. And some of those can drive some decent traffic, and through co-oping with a distillery or a brewery or a winery or what have you, when they co-op with them, they're bringing in some of those entities' customers that may have never visited their restaurant without that special event. So the special events can drive a lot.
Yeah, love that. And catering, I'm guessing, is catering a big thing that you talk about?
Catering, yes, especially since the pandemic. Catering is and to go is becoming a bigger thing. Some of our restaurants get more into catering, and it can be 25% of their top line revenue. Some of them don't want to have anything to do with catering because it's a whole nother set of moving parts. Right.
Yep. Excellent. So you talked about mindset shift. What would be a baby step that, owners watching this today and they're like, okay, I need to what would be a baby step you would tell them to start with?
Make whatever the source of their accounting is, whether it's in-house, they have an in-house bookkeeper, or they have an outside accountant, work with that person to help them understand what the financial statements are every month, balance sheet and a profit or loss and a statement of cash flows. Make sure they understand what each of those financial statements are and what they're telling them about their restaurant. And they should start to look for some, make sure those things are set up so they're tracking the true metrics, KPIs for their business, their restaurant. Make sure they're understanding their food costs versus food sales, wine costs versus wine sales, liquor, and that detail, front of house labor, back of house labor, and start to do some research on not what are, I hate the term national averages because nobody thinks that their business is average. They want to be above average.
Right.
But just get, a range of where maybe they should be and what they can do to pull some levers to start to drive those cost percentages down and increase their profitability.
Yeah. Love that. And you have an ebook that breaks down a lot of this and, gets people through the process. Tell us about that ebook and where people can find it.
So the ebook is 7 strategies to improve the financial performance of your restaurant. And I think it's called 7 strategies to drive profits and cash flow. I think that's right. So the ebook, my firm is called Financial Optics, and they can find our website at financialopticshq.com or just Google us, Financial Optics. The ebook is under my own name, and that's at timsernettcpa.com/7 strategies. So timsernettcpa.com.
Got it.
/7 strategies.
7 the number or 7 spelled out?
7 the number.
Got it.
Strategies.
Yep.
And I love talking to restaurant owners. I'm a good accountant, good CFO. We love what we do. I love talking to restaurant owners. I'm not a high pressure salesperson. I just want to talk to people about their business. I love entrepreneurs and I love hearing their entrepreneurial stories. So I'm happy to talk to anybody about how their accounting and bookkeeping is set up, what kind of numbers they're getting, what kind of profitability they're getting, and maybe some things they can do to improve.
Yeah, love it. Tim, thank you so much for coming on today. This is a wealth of knowledge. Go check out his ebook. We'll drop the link below. Appreciate you, Tim.
Thanks, Court. Had a blast doing it.
We'll talk to y'all soon.